You're listening to The Starting Zone, a podcast about World of Warcraft and the people who play it. And now, here are your hosts.
Well, hello and welcome to The Starting Zone, the podcast about World of Warcraft, the people who play it. Today is August 19th, and my name is Spencer Downey. Thank you so much for listening and subscribing to the podcast. I'm joined today, as always, by my co-host, Jason Lucas. Jason, how are you doing on this fine Monday?
Well, Spencer, hello. Here we are. This is the last actual episode of anything remotely resembling Dragonflight.
It's true.
I can't believe I'm saying that. It feels like it came up really fast this time. I mean, I guess it did, right? It was a very short interval, and Dragonflight kept us very busy. But man, it feels like it was just a couple minutes ago that we were like desperate for Dragonflight to come rescue us from Shadowlands.
Yeah, it's it certainly has felt like it's gone by fairly quickly. I will say that as someone who did not engage as deeply with Dragonflight along the way, it definitely felt like it went by fast. I think the launch of it and the first chunk of content that we saw from it was really exciting and interesting. And then I think the second chunk of content was, again, all the raid content this expansion has been great. But I do think we started to see that, things are just kind of starting to stack on top of each other effect. And so we know going into War Within that they're eliminating a lot of that. We're not going to have a lot of that stacking kind of building effect that happened that sort of overwhelmed players. And so I'm very excited about what's coming up. And I'm really excited for this Thursday. This Thursday is going to be the early access where people can start hopping in and checking out War Within content in the live game, which is kind of a crazy thing to say. And obviously following up that on the 26th when the actual main launch happens. Everyone will be diving in, exploring the world, checking out the quest lines, getting up to max level, running dungeons, and then waiting a couple of weeks to dive into the actual season start. So it's going to be an interesting feeling over the next 3 weeks, I would say, as we sort of get into that hype cycle and really get players pumped up and geared up. If you are not taking advantage of the current pre-patch event that runs for another few days, I would certainly encourage you to take advantage of that because, hey, if you hit max level on one toon before the expansion launch, you can level that other toon too if you did another one and do another one and do another one. There was someone inside our Discord who leveled, I think, 60 characters during this event so far.
I think Xander's final count was like 60 plus. Yes. He was busy in there for sure.
Yeah, it is a great event. It's fast to level up. People can definitely be involved. And check it out because that's exciting. The other thing wrapping up this week, which we'll talk a little bit more in the show, is Mop Remix. That wraps up tomorrow morning. So be sure that you are getting your stuff done today, spending your bronze today, getting everything done today when you're getting this. Or before you leave for work tomorrow morning, maybe get up half an hour early and just hop into Mop Remix and spend what you can spend before servers go down and the whole thing ends. So definitely get that done for yourself. Did you have anything you wanted to share with us about your past week in World of Warcraft?
Oh man, I've actually been super busy, weirdly. We ended up raiding last week. We had a pretty healthy group, which was cool to kind of, send it off to some degree, I guess. It was like the last week that sort of mattered in any way because it's our last week to earn stuff for the vault and everything. So we did Heroic Amirdrasil, which was a super quick clear. I think it was maybe an hour flat. The Prot Warrior damage buffs certainly felt nice. I was just crushing stuff. The defensive nerfs, actually, I did feel a little bit. I felt a little bit more vulnerable than I have in a long time. So that was kind of interesting. And then, you know what? We finished and we're like, we got 20 plus. Let's go do some Mythic. Why don't we go do Aberrus, though? Because those bosses are just like easier and kind of more fun than even the first three in like Amirdrasil. So we went and did that. Did a little, raid tour that night. That was fun. And I did one Keystone just for the sake of it. Got in there, did probably what would end up being my last plus 10, which included Afflicted. So the initial group that I built, I was like, oh, wait, I got a Warrior and a Demon Hunter and a DK. Wait, can anybody deal with this other than the healer? No. Okay, who wants to switch? Like, It just sort of perfectly illustrated why I hate Afflicted so much. So, I mean, the tuning felt really easy with like Azure Vault or something. I think we plus 3'd it, which I would never have been plus 3ing a plus 10 prior to 11.0 changes. So, you know, the tuning was fine, but it still is just an obnoxious affix. So that was about it. You know, that was just Tuesday night and then kind of done. This week, we'll see if people want to do heroic mythic raiding on Tuesday. And then we have all Evoker, all Demon Hunter raid queued up for Wednesday night, which is going to be super fun. Our expansion send off, our traditional, you know, our single class raid became a 2-class raid this time, but it's still going to be a good time. So really looking forward to that, to say goodbye to Dragonflight. And man, outside of that, I just was super busy with alts and just getting the stable leveled and hooked up. Since we last spoke, I leveled the Orc Warlock, the Void Elf Monk, the Lightforged Paladin, the Kultiran Druid, the Mechanome DK, and the Z-Troll Paladin to 70. So my final count is 33, and then I got 3 more coming in from remakes with Reset. And then, you know, at that point, once everything was leveled, I'm like, all right, who needs what? First of all, let me get all the Mogs, right? Because you can Mog all the stuff you buy from the vendor, and then you can catalyze all that stuff so you can get all the sets for Season 4. So, okay, what pieces do I need across 13 classes to make all that happen? Which tunes do I have that are sub 480 item level? And so I've just spent a good bit of time. Like I had a ton of currency banked up just from leveling so many characters. And then, you know, it's all tradable. They shut trading off because it was breaking something last week. And it was off for a couple days when I was trying to do this. I'm like, man, I hope they fix this before this event is over, because this is going to be really annoying if I have to, you know, kind of manually buy pieces and move them around. But it was only down for about a day, I think. So it wasn't too bad. I could end up transferring everything around. I had so much currency that I got I think I got all the way through except for the Warlock from what I had lying around to get them 480 plus, 4 set, all that stuff. So I had to start kind of grinding up a bit, getting some drops, but that was okay. I mean, where I finished up at this point, like I have all 13 class sets for Season 4, which is, you know, it's a mix of Season 1, 2, and 3 sets, but still, it was a lot of it was stuff I didn't have, so I got all that Mog done. I got all 13 classes at 480 plus item level, so ready to step into leveling and delves and War Within, which is really exciting. I also got Horde side tunes going, and I got the DH and the DK up to 480 plus. I got the Troll Warrior actually just finished up this morning to 480 plus with 4 set. I want to get the other 3 tank classes done before Thursday night, and like I just have so many options, and I don't really play alts a whole lot like in content, but I'm thinking that delves might really change that behavior and give me some more options and stuff that feels like it's worth doing with a tune that I don't want to invest a lot of time into, and also, you know, frankly, subject my poor play on it on other people, you know, like a shaman or something, a class I really know what I'm doing on. I can play it kind of safely in my own little world and still get cool rewards. So really looking forward to that. And then I have one other anecdote I want to pass along about stuff I did this week.
Sure. You
know, we're waiting on the patch for the transmog collection changes that are going to come in, where you can collect stuff that isn't explicitly for your class. Yeah. Not that you could use it, but you can collect it, learn it, whatever. And especially when it comes to those tier 1, tier 2 raids where pieces would just drop for a class. I've been working on the Judgment set, Paladin tier 2, for years on and off because I never got the helmet. And, I had done a ton of Mog runs and stuff back in Legion, like in the lead up to Legion and early on in Legion, especially once they put in the armor racks in the order halls that had the different, tier set helms and shoulders. So I did a ton of it, and I got everything except the helmet, and then I just kind of stopped. And then recently I'm like, okay, well now, I have 5 Paladins at level 70 now. There's a portal right to Searing Gorge from Dalaran that I can quickly get to. I know that the changes aren't in yet, but let me just run this, get some drops. I'll hang on to class-specific stuff that I can't learn until after the patch, whatever. And, like, surely, eventually, Nefarian will drop a Judgment Hood, right? and like, if you haven't done Blackwing Lair, like, it's not the worst Mog run, but it kind of sucks, right? Because Razor Gore, you have to control him and break all the eggs, and it's not like you just wing a spell at him and he dies. You got to go around and do that. And then there's the trap room after second boss where like you just get mega slowed. And even on a Paladin with Bubble and Freedom and Pony, it's just like, oh, do I really have to do this? Can I just get through here? I did it 5 times this past week and no luck.
Ugh.
And I'm like, this is unreal. And then it hit me like, wait a minute. When they redid Onyxia in Wrath of the Lich King, they gave her all the tier 2 helms, and they all match the set. And since this event is on, I have a portal from Dalaran to Dustwallow Marsh, and I can go kill Onyxia in 5 seconds.
That's true.
So that hit me like a lightning bolt Saturday morning. I logged into my Dwarf Paladin, who was like my quote-unquote main Paladin, went to Dustwallow Marsh, killed Onyxia, and immediately got the Judgment Helm in one attempt and completed the Judgment set that I've had uncompleted for this entire time. So that was really cool. It felt great. I felt so smart. Like, oh, look at me. I leveraged the portals and everything, and I had this thought just in time, basically. So that's something to keep in mind, I guess, if you're looking for tier 2 pieces or whatever. Now is, while this event is going on and you have super quick access to Searing Gorge and Dustwallow Marsh, it is actually a really good time to do that, even with the MOG rules not totally in place yet. So,
right.
But that was really cool. It felt great to finally finish that set after all this time.
Yeah, it's certainly one of those interesting things when you start to look at, and this is what happened with Mob Remix, where you're going up to the vendor and you were looking at what the inventory was, and when you moused over a piece, it would show like this huge list of sets that this matched, right? Like other locations where these other pieces could be found inside of the world. And there's a few add-ons out there that help you track things like this. One of them big ones is called All the Things. If you ever get the All the Things add-on, it'll actually let you basically have a Wowhead database in-game is kind of the concept behind it, where you can actually track particular objectives that you want to complete to get particular transmogs or pets or mounts or anything like that, as well as just see the variety of places you can get them. So in some cases, like, oh, well, this drops as a BOE inside of this raid, but it's also available as, you know, the armor that comes from this dungeon, and it's also available from this particular quest. It's those 3 places you could find this exact same model, not the same piece of gear, but it looks the same. So as long as you collect that one particular appearance, then you're technically getting all those appearances. So just keeping that in mind, because they're all the same. So there's a lot of stuff out there to help you track that kind of thing, but it is neat to figure out, like, wait a minute, I can get the same appearance from another source that's an easier to gather source. So take advantage of that while you can, like Jason did. That is a good call. I didn't dive too deep into WoW. I did some of the leveling event, which we talked a lot about last week, so I'm not going to reiterate that. But yeah, it's great to be able to get in, level a character pretty easily, pound through the event fast, and sort of get out and get your accomplishments done. I will highlight that, as Jason mentioned, that is wrapping up later this week, which means if you're someone who hasn't done it yet and you want to get the limited time rewards, your time is running out. So you want to be sure you're getting in there, spending the hour and a half, 2 hours it takes to sort of do a full run through and get all those rewards and get all the stuff you're looking for, and have the I want to say heirloom item that you need to get for the ring, and make sure you're taking advantage of that stuff. So yeah, well, that's out and about. All right, with that, let's hop into what's going on this week in World of Warcraft. All right, this week, well, there's nothing in the calendar. Just kidding. There actually isn't, though, as far as a weekly event goes. We don't have a weekly event currently set up. It's probably just getting ready for early access. That's going to kick off. If there is something, it's probably the same quest as last week that people can hop in and check out. But yeah, there's nothing listed in the calendar as a particular big event. There's no pet battle bonus event. There's no, world quest bonus event. There's no nothing. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens tomorrow, but there might not be anything scheduled at all. As far as what else we got going on,
which honestly, that's really good. You think
so?
Yeah, because do you really want to be influenced to do 4, Dragonflight Mythic dungeons this week or something? You know what I mean?
Oh, fair.
I think it's really good to just clear the calendar for the week. Not every player, but a lot of players are going to be done with this whole content cycle come Thursday evening Eastern time.
Yeah.
So, I think it makes sense. Just don't even bother running an event, because you don't really want to split players' attention too much. And plus, it might be like, I don't know, confusing. If you're not really paying that much attention, you're like, oh, well, here's a quest. This guy in the main city I'm in right now, this quest giver gave this to me, and I spent this time doing this. And I got a reward, which is now immediately going in the garbage, right? Like, better to just probably clear the slate. Like, okay, we're moving on. This is a weird transitional week for the game. They're doing it in a way they haven't really ever done it before, but I think clearing the event, like the weekly event calendar, is something they have done in the past when there's new content coming out or whatever, right? A new expansion or even something just like a new patch or whatever, just to keep people like not to pull their attention away from the stuff that they kind of want players to focus on, or that is actually going to be more important or a better use of their time.
That's fair. I don't know if there's also a technical limitation that takes place with it too. Who knows? Could be something about that. But you can still be able to do your last hurrah if that's something you're wanting to do. It has been Zaralek Cavern for many weeks, so we'll see if it actually is different. But it's probably going to be Zaralek Cavern.
I can't imagine they fixed this for this week. I hope not.
Yeah.
Like, if I don't even want them to have fixed it at this point. They got bigger fish to fry. We'll do Zaralek Cavern if we really want to do a last hurrah.
Exactly. As far as PvP brawls go, we got Comp Stomp going on, which is a Arathi Basin against AI bots, which means if you want a fun way to sort of spend some time, it's a great way to just crank out a bunch of honor and be able to get a bunch of transmog if that's something you're looking and farming for. You can do Arathi Basin Comp Stomp stuff in, like, I want to say 4 minutes or 6 minutes a match, typically somewhere between there in a range. And so it's very quick. It can be quicker than that. I'd say that's the average. And it's a lot of fun to get in, blow up some AI bots, get blown up by some AI bots if you're not paying attention, and have a good time. It's one of my favorite brawls by far.
Yeah, it's great, and this is the perfect brawl for this week too. I think if this is the one you really want to land on when you have this sort of half a week in Dragonflight, half a week in War Within for many players, because it's super low stakes, right? Anybody can just go do this, and you'll probably win pretty quick, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. That's certainly part of it. Okay, and as far as world bosses go, obviously you can knock out the world bosses for some $4.99 loot, but you could also knock out Bascaron the Shalewing. That's the Earth Proto Dragon in Waking Shores, and then you'll be able to get that done and get yourself some $4.99 loot if that's something you're looking to do. Mythic Plus affixes for the week are Fortified, Incorporeal, and Sanguine, meaning non-boss enemies have 20% more health and deal increased damage, while in combat, incorporeal beings periodically appear and attempt to weaken players, and when slain, non-boss enemies leave behind a lingering pool of Ichor that heals their allies and damages players. So, Jason, I think it's safe to say we are ending off the season with the worst 2 possible weeks that we could see for Fortified and Tyrannical. Pretty much close. Maybe not the worst, but way up there on the list.
Maybe not, not, but maybe. Yeah. I mean, this is like one of the bad parts of the rotation where you get an Afflicted week and an Incorporeal week.
Plus, it's Sanguine, which syncs up with Fortified, so you have Sanguine Fortified working together against
you. get that percentage healing. Yeah, like this is actually one of the worst combos, I think, in the pool for the current 10-week rotation we've been in for the last couple seasons. No one is going to miss Incorporeal. I think the Sanguine hate was a bit overblown. I don't think it was that bad of an affix, but it tested your tank. I kind of liked dealing with Sanguine, right? Because like if I do it really well, then my team doesn't have to worry about it.
Big reward.
It felt like a cool way for me to kind of express my skill, but like I get people hated it, and the overwhelming voices in the community wanted a Mythic Plus refresh and kind of a rethinking of it. So whatever, I'm on board with that. I'm not gonna miss this. We're not gonna be sitting in season 1 and I'm gonna be going, man, I wish we could have a Fort Incorp Sanguine week. That's not gonna happen. I have carried the torch for a really long time with this mode for this expansion. I think it's safe to say I have no interest in doing any keys this week. I'm just not even going to bother. We'll do our last couple Dragonflight raids and have a good time, and then I'm going to either switch over to gearing up some more alts that I'll probably never play, or I'll just log off and take a little break because I'm going to be going super ham on Thursday night. So that's where I'm at. If you really need something out of the system, like you can still get Keystone Master or Keystone Hero or whatever, I feel bad for you. I empathize with you if that is the case that you find yourself in, because this is not a good week to have to do stuff, and like it's going to be hard to get quality people's attention to do this stuff with you. So hopefully you have everything sort of buttoned up in terms of your Mythic Plus goals for the season, because this is a bad combo. It just is. Like you have to have a comp that can deal with it, and you have to have a tank that can manage Sanguine. And Trash is going to be sloggy. It is going to die really fast because the timing is very favorable. The bosses will be kind of easy, but you will still have incorps popping up during it. But I mean, all that aside, this is just not where people's heads are at this point. Like, if you got to rally the troops to get in there and get your Mythic Pluses done, good luck, because I think it's a tough sell.
I agree. As I said, top of the show, MOP Remix wraps up tomorrow, which means that you want to be sure that you are getting all of your currency spent. Here's what you can expect. All items, currencies, except gold and quests will be removed from time runners and their banks during the conversion process, so make sure you spend your bronze. The character conversion process may take several minutes to complete after you log in on your character. You will need to log in into each time runner for the conversion process to take place. Characters will retain their level. Characters will receive 467 eye level gear for level 70 characters and that are appropriate for the specialization, and lower level characters will receive lower item level appropriate to their level. Characters will receive 4 30-slot bags and 1 26-slot reagent bag. You will the unlearned collection items, like ensembles, that are still inside your inventory, if there's something that you purchased but just never learned, will be sent to your mailbox. Characters will be relocated to either Orgrimmar for Horde characters or Stormwind for Alliance. And characters will retain any gold they earned in Mists of Pandaria and receive a Time Runner's Parting Pack with a small gold amount that scales with the character's level to get them started in War Within. So a little kickoff package for everyone there as well. Overall, I think MOP Remix has been quite successful. I think it's been an interesting experience for a lot of people to sort of hop into and check out. I think the changes they put in were very necessary to sort of keep people on track to earn the things they wanted to earn in the time period they were given. So I was very happy to see those take place. I think that we're looking at something else remixed at some point in the future. I think that they will probably repeat an event like this again. I can't see them not doing it again.
I think they should. I mean, I think there were certainly some lessons learned, and I think also with stuff like this, you always want to come in at the low end of generosity and then scale it up, because you want to have that balance of like, okay, we're not going to just burn people out on this in 4 days. We built this mode to keep people busy for 3 months, right? But you also don't want it to feel like you're never going to get to the finish line. And they came in way too low at the outset, and then kind of gradually built it up until it felt way better, much better. It felt really good after the changes they made in like June. I mean, I think the model is clear. I think there's some juice here. Like this probably isn't a fun mode for everybody to play for 3.5 months or whatever, but for like a month and a half, like I was really having a great time with Remix. Eventually, once you get all the way up the top of the power curve, there's no gameplay left really. Like everything just explodes. So it's like there's no texture to what I'm doing. And that's where you just start counting the currency, like, okay, how many more times do I have to do this to just be done? And and that's not really going to be fun forever. But working your way up, I think, was really fun, and I'm sure they learned a lot about maybe revisiting this kind of an idea. I think it was a huge success. I had a great time with it, and I mean, there were some struggles at the outset, and it definitely fell off. Like once I was done, I was all the way done. But I think that's okay. It's not like they had to really build a lot of custom content for this. So I think it's a smart way to reuse stuff that exists that people like, that maybe could benefit from a second look or something. Just a fresh take on it. One thing I guess I will say, if you're listening to this before reset in your region, there was some kind of issue with a couple mage sets, the Throne of Thunder set and the Siege of Orgrimmar set. They weren't like showing up right. That was fixed like over the weekend. So just double check if you're interested in those mage sets and you want to buy them with bronze. Just make sure you have them. The weird thing for me is like when I log in, they show up on the vendor, but I have them. So I don't know why that is. Now I bought stuff from a couple different vendors, but the one character that I'm pretty sure I bought the heroic vendor out on, like it shows in that vendor's inventory, but I can go log over into the live game onto my mage, and it has those appearances available. So just a heads up. I mean, it's super last minute under the wire. If you're listening to this on pod, like you may not have a window to check it out, but I think it bears mentioning. They did sort of just sneak in some last minute fixes on that inventory, and those two mage sets are affected.
Yeah, we had some hotfix notes for this week, and one of them was that all players should now be able to see the Mythic Ensemble Chronomancer for purchase on Pythagoras. So yeah, if you're someone who was not able to actually see some of the mage ensembles, just hop back in, check it out, see what's going on, and there might be something there for you to spend some bronze on, as opposed to just letting it go to waste when you could be spending it on full free transmog. As far as professions go, in hotfixes, the Artisan's Acuity reagent cost for rare and epic profession tools and accessories may now only be provided by the customer for crafting orders. And bloody tokens are now capped at 200,000 tokens. So we now know what the cap is on bloody tokens, in case that's something you're collecting. The quest Squally can now be summoned from your pet journal when Griffins of a Feather is completed. So if you're someone who's like, where's my Squally? I finished the quest. I want my pet. And you can get your pet out. It now works. So that should be all fixed for people. PvP currency changes and dates. This comes in from Kaivax saying, we've seen your feedback and we want to provide some clarification on PvP currencies as we go into early access and War Within launch. Players will be able to purchase Dragonflight items throughout early access, and we will reset currencies on the launch day of August 26th. With PvP currencies, Honor will continue to be earnable and will reset with the start of early access on August 22nd. At this time, we will temporarily change the Honor cap to 4,000. The Honor cap will be returned to 15,000 with the War Within launch on August 26th. Conquest and Bloody tokens will cease being earnable at preseason start on August 20th. Will reset with the new visioning that's coming in on August 26th. These will become earnable again when War Within Season 1 begins. The PvP vendors for the War Within will not have items available to purchase during early access, so that all players have equal access to level 80 PvP gear at the same time, which is good. I'm glad to hear that they're doing that. There shouldn't be any tangible power benefit when it comes to doing early access for things like that. As far as War Mode gearing goes, we saw a positive reception towards the updates we made to the War Mode in Dragonflight. In War Within, we're maintaining much of the same structure with some quality of life changes. The Trophies of Strife will no longer exist. The only War Mode currency that exists will be Bloody tokens. Nearly all world content will offer Bloody tokens as reward. There will still be 2 tiers of War Mode gear. Only Tier 2 can be purchased from the War Mode vendors, purchasable with Bloody tokens. Tier 1 can be acquired through War Mode activities. So it's that same sort of concept of, hey, if you're out doing, this doesn't exist, but if you're out doing a War Mode daily quest that's out in the world, or a War Mode world quest that's out in the world, you might earn gear rewards similar to other world quests that you're earning. However, when you get Bloody tokens from actually participating in War Mode activities, you can spend those to get the better gear at the vendors. Bloody tokens will now have a weekly cap that increases, like Conquest. Our goal with this is for the catch-up for War Mode gear to be through interacting with more War Mode systems, for War Mode gear to be, oh my goodness, this is one of those War Modes of War Modes of War Mode situations. Here we go. Bloody tokens will now have a weekly cap that increases like Conquest. Our goal with this is for the catch-up for War Mode gear through interacting with War Mode systems, rather than catch-up mechanics that we had with Trophies of Strife for Honor. Additionally, the weekly quests equivalent to Dragonflight Sparks of Life quests will offer a large percentage of weekly Bloody tokens cap, of the weekly Bloody tokens cap. There will be new PvP consumables offered by vendors in Donegal, which you can purchase for Honor. Thanks again for all your feedback, and we'll see you on the battlefield. All right. Wow, I stumbled my way a little bit in there, but it was worth, because it's good to get the information out there for folks who are going to be leveling through War Mode. And I know there's going to be more than a few of us that are doing this, because you get a lot of little benefits for doing it. And it's a lot of fun. It can get a little spicy, but it's a lot of fun. So if you're someone who wants to participate in War Mode, you can toggle it on and actually participate in that. Otherwise, you can leave it off and never have to worry about where you're AFKing or what's going on with your character when you step away to go to the bathroom. Something like that, you know? So it's really up in the air for that. All right, Jason.
Yeah, well, it's really nice to streamline the currency, I think. A game like WoW needs currencies, and sometimes the answer to problems that we have is to add currencies, but also there's a limit where the currencies start to really become confusing. I think streamlining this sounds really good. I mean, I haven't done really any War Mode in Dragonflight, really in the last 2 expansions. I used to do it all the time in like BFA because you had those what were they called, incursions or something, where it was like, okay, this is on a timer, this zone is like exploding with world PvP, there are world quests to do here, there's rewards to get. I love that. I wish they would bring something like that back, or like the watchtowers in Legion, the kind of like world PvP outdoor objectives. Yeah, I mean, I used to do all that stuff. You know, it's they kind of moved away from having it be structured in the last couple expansions, and so it's just not really for me. I don't think. You know, I think having that sort of that structure, like, okay, here are rewards that you know you're going to get from participating. Here is like when it's going to happen. So you're going to have this critical mass of players or whatever. You bring your friends. That stuff really helped. I don't really feel like that stuff is out there in Dragonflight as much, and I could be wrong because I've mostly just ignored it. So I don't know. Maybe there is stuff that I'm not taking advantage of that I could be, but it is actually typically really fun to run around in world PvP as a super high geared tank. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think streamlining the reward structure sounds really good, and having bloody tokens be almost like world PvP conquest, if that makes sense. It sounds like a good change. You know, especially from the perspective of the catch up, right? And with the alt friendliness with warbands and all that, you know, you don't want people to be in a situation where they can't catch up even if they invest time, right? Yeah. And I think when you have stuff that's sort of on that weekly payout kind of system, then you can run into that. And you know, I think also the devs have been careful so far with like character power still matters and is not really transferable. If you're getting relevant power in content that belongs to your character, you're not sending your crests or your flight stones or whatever directly over to another character. Like another character can benefit from progress that you've made on that character, but not a one-to-one. Like, okay, I just have more item level, I have more power now. And you know, I think having these kind of systems in place at the outset, where it's like, okay, bloody tokens are what you care about if you're doing war mode and you're looking to gear up through war mode, but you have this graduating cap. So if you want to play more war mode this week on a tune that didn't do any last week, now you can get 2 weeks worth of cap in 1 week. I think that kind of stuff has to be in there, otherwise it just feels terrible for players, and you end up with characters that maybe you want to move to or want to switch to or want to just check out and mess around with, and it feels just objectively wrong to do that because you're too far behind to ever catch up on the currency.
Right. Yeah.
With this change, that won't happen.
Yeah, exactly. All right, War Within preview blogs. This is what we're sort of getting as far as all launch times go. This is the whole rundown of.
We got a lot.
All of this, and there's
a lot of publishing updates this past week. Believe it or not, in the lead up to early access. So, a lot of the stuff is stuff that we probably know or we've covered on the show before. Exactly. But it's also going to be a lot of eyeballs on the game this week, and you know it's obviously a huge moment. So I think it's worth we'll lay out everything that they told us and everything that they put out into the world, so you can go check it out. Because yeah, I mean this is as big as it gets. Basically, it's an expansion launch week.
Yeah, it really is, and we're expecting a lot of blogs, and so we're getting a lot of blogs and a lot of press. And this one starts off by kicking off by mentioning that you're going to be delving into the depths and lurking perils of the Nerubian Empire, with the malicious Harbinger of the Void taking place inside of Azeroth and bringing Azeroth to its knees. We know that much about it, and if you want to know more about it outside of playing it, you can go and watch a lot of the video content that they've been putting out and interviews they've been putting out. They actually just did an interview today with a bunch of the personalities and devs around Blizzard to talk about the storyline of what's going to be happening inside War Within and where they're heading with that. So I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. So we're not going to talk about the story, but we're going to mention that there is a lot of information out there about the story to get the hooks into people who want to get the hooks into them. A little bit later on, we'll talk about the Illyria Light and Shadow thing that came out too, which just sort of sets up her character a little bit better as well, about how she converted from one to the other. But into this blog, we know that War Within's next World of Warcraft's next expansion, War Within, will launch in Americas, EU, Taiwan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand at the same time globally. Wherever you live, whatever your faction you represent, you can be a part of the one global unified front as we head into Khazal Algar and it all opens up. Players who pre-purchase the Epic Edition of War Within get early access. That's August 22nd at 3 p.m. Pacific time, so 6 p.m. Eastern. That's going to go live. And then globally, the actual game fully launches for everybody on August 26th at 3 p.m. Pacific. That's 6 p.m. Eastern. So people who pre-ordered got, little perks like pets and mounts and that kind of stuff. So they mentioned that as well. The early access times, they put up a chart that sort of talks about the different time zones of when early access launches. But if you're someone who can figure out what Pacific time is and it's 3 p.m., then you can probably figure out that that's midnight in Paris, and it's, things like that. You can do the math for your region. I'm not going to go through all the regional times that they listed.
There is a chart in the blog. So if you are struggling with the time conversion, they spelled it all out in many different time zones.
Yes, they did. The War Within Season 1 schedule, with the start of early access on August 22nd, normal dungeons will become available. That means people can dive into the Arakara, the Priority of the Sacred Flame, the Rookery, Stone Vault, just those first four for leveling dungeons. And then at max level, you can check out Cinderbrew Meadery, City of Threads, Dark Flame Cleft, and the Dawnbreaker, those other 4 dungeons at max level. With the launch of on August 26th, heroic difficulty will be available. So anyone who does have early access, you just got the normal versions anyways of cranking through these dungeons. So if you're someone who levels to 80 in the first 24 hours, which I'm sure there will be people who do, they are very limited on what access to content they have. They'd have access to normal dungeons during that period of time and some of the outdoor world stuff, but nothing major. As far as what might be factored major for some people is professions. Obviously, they'll be out there gathering stuff for professions, very rapidly and attempting to try and corner the market before anyone else gets in, which I know has a lot of gold makers nervous in that sense. However, recognize that the moment the 26th happens, everything's going to really start balancing hard and very fast as far as the gold economy goes. So I don't think we'll see a massive advantage to folks who are doing that. However, I'm sure there's gold makers out there who are like, of course there is. And they're probably right in that situation.
Like any advantage is an advantage at a certain level, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah. With the launch of the expansion, like I said, heroic difficulty kicks off on the 26th. On September 10th is when we see Season 1 start. So when Season 1 starts, Heroic and Raid Finder Wing 1 of the Nerubar Palace, the new raid that's taking place, will open. We'll see Mythic 0 dungeons become available, along with the Heroic seasonal dungeons and the new world bosses. That'll all happen. There are 4 world bosses that are going to be taking place out there, and we'll tell you about them as they come up. They do list the names, but I'm not going to spoil the names. On September 17th, Mythic Raid and Raid Finder Wing 2 and Mythic Plus dungeons and the Raid story mode will open. So just be aware, if you're someone who has early access, you have to wait 4 weeks before you actually see Mythic Plus kick off. So you're not going to be like diving into Mythic Plus in the first opening weekend. You have 4 weeks basically before you get to start chunking into that Mythic Plus content. However, it also means for players who are interested in this expansion, you only have to wait 4 weeks before the story mode raid comes out, which means you can actually get in there and sort of play your way through the raid in a what's the best way to put it? Manicured experience that allows you to actually see the story and what takes place with the story within this raid. So that's exciting for folks who actually just want to get in there and see the storyline. You only have to wait a month, which is pretty cool. We then have the Raid Finder Wing 3 on the 24th coming out, and that's going to be the last wing of the Raid Finder. So it basically means that for those who don't want to just do story mode, you wait 1 more week to September 24th, and then you can actually see the Wing 3 final wing in Raid Finder mode. I imagine by then we'll see a lot of normal clears taking place by 5 weeks into the raid. By two and a half weeks into the raid, we'll see a lot of normal clears starting to take place for players. The race will be over, I would assume, within that period of time for teams that are trying to race to it.
Probably. I would say hopefully for the racers. Yeah. For myself, I have no such hopes around any of that. But yeah, you would think so, right? Yeah. So you'd think it'd be over, but maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah. So your key dates, I'll just recap: 22nd early access, 26th launch, September 10th is Season 1, September 17th is Mythic Raids and Mythic Plus with more Raid Finder and Story Mode. September 24th is Raid Finder Wing 3. All right, as far as items go, we got a little peek at what they are actually doing as far as item levels go. The preseason or normal difficulty item level is 554. We're going to see that bump up through heroic to 593 for the actual great vault rewards from heroic, 567 from actually what you get out of the drops inside the dungeon. That's the preseason stuff. When season 1 launches and Mythic Plus comes out and all of that, it goes up to 580 out of those. They have all the tracks in. I'm just going to pass on the tracks for now, other than to know that the champion track starts at Mythic +2, Mythic 0 +2, or whatever, Mythic plus 2, that's what I'm thinking of. That will then run from 2 until 6 for champion, and that's 597 to 606. And then you actually move into the hero track. And if you're curious with the hero track, it starts at a +3 in your vault reward, and then runs down through +9s and +10s. So that'll go up to 619 out of your actual vault reward, or 613 out of a +9 keystone. So we know that there's only 20 item levels difference in doing a Mythic 0 and doing a Mythic +9. So just keep that in mind. It's just 20 item levels. So
yeah, that's all, and that's all part of the the big restructuring they did with Dragonflight Season 4, just compressing everything, making Mythic 0 kind of have more of a place, I think, in the overall structure, and and to have have more of an audience who wants to do more challenging dungeon content but doesn't want the pressure of the timers and everything. Just a couple things I guess to point out here with the item level chart, which they published in this blog. You're basically looking at getting to 554 this weekend, more or less, right? Like we're going to be, that's about as the best that we're going to do, before the wide launch. So keep that in mind. I mean, I think an obvious question to somebody who's interested or planning on playing early access is like, well, what do I actually do? Like, what should I be doing before launch? And I really think the answer is to just enjoy the content, experience 100%. As much of it as you can. Do the questing, level up a tune, maybe level up another one if you really feel like doing that. Check out professions, check out delves for sure. Check out the normal dungeons. You can do them on follower dungeon if you want to. That's a great option. These are all great things to do. There's not going to be really a lot of pressure around gearing or whatever this coming weekend because there's not that much that we have access to. That whole process is heavily gated, and it's gonna start slow, and we're gonna ramp up over the next couple weeks. So you can do the normal dungeons to your heart's content this weekend coming up, after our early access starts, but the ceiling is very low. And I think we haven't really talked a lot on the show about some of the controversies or bad feelings around the buy up for early access, but I think from a game design standpoint, they were pretty careful to keep the power really in check. Even if you completely no life this, over the early access period, you're not going to shoot ahead of anybody in terms of like raw power on one character.
And that's why I was trying to emphasize the 20 item level difference between Mythic 0 and Mythic +9, because there's a 13 item level difference between getting loot out of a normal and getting loot out of a heroic dungeon. So people who are like, I'm going to get to 554 this weekend, that's my goal, we're going to do it. That's great. Someone's going to start up on the 26th, be leveled up, by the 30th, let's say, and start running a few normals during that period of time, but mainly be running heroics. And then as soon as they're running heroics, they're actually getting 567 item level gear from doing that during that week, right? So they're getting substantially higher item level. And if you're talking about what happens in season 1, that jumps another 13 item levels. So even if you take a week to level up your character, and then you start doing your normal dungeons into heroic, you're going from 554 loot to 580 loot that you're getting out of this, right? We're talking about 26 item levels.
They're not really going to hold a lot of water, man. The 554s we'll be getting this week, and I think that's from a design standpoint, that's the way to go.
Agreed.
The business team probably came to them and said, "Look, early access is very popular. What if we include it in a buy-up package?" And they said, "Well, we've never done that before." And they were like, "Well, we think it'll make us a lot of extra money." And they said, "Okay, so how do we, from a design standpoint, how do we manage this?" And I mean, I think if you really look at this, I think there's no strong competitive, power advantage for any character from participating in this stuff. I, as a player, am quite looking forward to having an extra couple days to really just immerse myself in the new zones, the new story, just check everything out and really play at my own pace. which means slowly, right?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
want to zoom to 80 and I don't want to slam dungeons all weekend. I want to go live in this world for a while, soak up the story, and just check it all out. That's always the way I like to approach a new expansion.
Yeah.
And I think having this extra window is perfect for somebody like me, because I'll be able to do that and there's going to be no pressure from anybody to do anything. I mean, I just go queue for normal. So if my friends aren't around, and, you know, just round out those items a little bit. I think it's pretty smart. A couple people in my raid team have sort of been like, I'm not doing early access, whatever. I just don't want to. I don't want to spend the extra money. It's not that big of a deal. And then a couple of them came back and said, you know what? Actually, you get an extra month of game time with the early access. Yep. So it's actually like only an extra $5. So I'm going to buy it just because for $5, whatever. And like, I think that sort of also goes to show, like, listen, we've said it on the show before, like, the games industry is inherently kind of predatory. It all started from amusements and stuff and quarter munchers, and they always want that extra money out of your pocket. And, you know, I don't think anybody is immune to that. Early access is something that's been around the industry and MMORPGs forever. And, you know, premium buy-ups is nothing new either. I think there could have been a real opportunity here for them to skew the competitive balance of the game by introducing early access. They could give us a great vault on the 27th. You know, they could have done that. Yeah. They could have opened up Mythic Zeros at early access launch.
Yeah.
And then the whole, you know, picture of the experience is much different. Now you have to buy it. You have to zoom to 80. You have to slam as many Mythic Zeros as you possibly can. You have to round out that vault for the 27th or, you know, regional reset. They didn't do that. And instead, the vibe of early access is going to be just go do whatever you want. Go check it all out. Do all the dungeons, do all the delves, do level up characters, maybe level up more than one character. Check out the new battleground. Like, all of this stuff is what you can spend your time doing over the 4 days of early access. And I think it's smart. I think that was definitely the way to do it versus what some of the alternatives could have been.
So, and I agree with you. That definitely is my choice. And I recognize that there are going to be people out there who are like, dude, I really loved when expansion would launch and everyone would just power level as hard as they could. They'd immediately have access to, you know, hard content with heroic dungeons and mythic dungeons, and in some cases Mythic Plus later on that we saw come in, and be able to just crank out as much item level as they could to get this huge power advantage going into the raid week, right? And I personally am with Jason that I'm really looking forward to having 2 weeks of time where there is zero pressure to be in the game every day, having to be there, like play what you want to play and do what you want to do for 2 weeks is really enjoyable to me. I'm really looking forward to that because I very much, my leveling experience for World of Warcraft has always been for a long time, for over 10 years, has been that pressure of I need to just get to max level. Let's rush through things. I need to get there so I can just start getting all of the other things. Because the longer I'm not at max level, the longer I'm not able to do the max level things that are going to really benefit my character this expansion that I need to be doing. And so to know that a lot of that stuff is locked away and trapped and it's not going to be accessible for 2 weeks is like, man, all right, I can hop in on the 22nd. I can play, you know, for 4 or 5 hours that day if I'm really hyped up and I want to do it. And then maybe the next day I get in for 3 or 4 and then I have to go to work or whatever it is. And then you have, you know, these bits and pieces you sort of do over the next 2 weeks, as opposed to feeling like you have to live inside of the game for the first 2 weeks of you know, launch to be able to make sure that you are as ready as possible for raid to happen. They're just giving everyone this much more gentler introduction into the content and way more time to experience it and hopefully not feel that pressure of I need to complete everything right now and be at max level right now, so I'm getting the stuff I need right now. And I'm going to really enjoy that. I know I am, and it might be that way for the majority of the players. I don't know. It could be that there's a lot more players who just want to get into Mythic Plus immediately and run Mythic Plus, and why isn't it out yet? And this sucks. We have to wait 2 weeks, right? I understand that perspective. I do. I'm just saying, for me personally, I really enjoy that I'm going to have 2 weeks to like level up multiple characters, experience the story in different ways, do an alliance toon and a horde toon, see what the differences are between those stories. I can do all those things in that 2 week period and really sort of, you know, stretch my legs in the expansion. So when the content comes out, I don't feel like I've essentially just blown through everything And now I try and use that tail end, month and a half or 2 months when there's a lull and nothing happening to go back and do all of those things. Because I don't like doing that. I don't like being put in a situation where I'm like, well, I could read quest text, but I'm not going to read quest text because I need to just get to the next quest. Let's just grab 6 of these, go out, pound out the check marks, turn them all in, go out, pound another bunch. Like, I'm going to enjoy experiencing the expansion more. And the world's been beautiful so far, so I'm looking forward to it. Speaking of the world, we get to explore zones and dungeons within War Within. Really all I'm going to cover about this blog post is the leveling areas. So we all start off on the Isle of Dorn. That's going to be level 70 to 73 that you're going to be leveling there. You're then to move to the Ringing Deep, or Deeps. There's no TH inside that, so it's Deeps. 73 to 75 if you're leveling there. And then over to Hallowfall, that's 75 to 78. And then we're all going to end up inside Azj-Kahet for 78 to 80. And I already mentioned the leveling dungeons that you have access to in max level ones. So they go over those again inside this blog post. But yeah, in general, this is a more on the rails type of leveling experience, moving from zone to zone to zone. This is less of a, hey, just hop in and wander to wherever you want to wander and level up there. If you wander into Azj-Kahet right at the start of the game, which I'm sure they've put some things in place to stop you from doing so, you are going to be facing a more substantial challenge. So beware of that. It's not the way it's designed. It's been designed a little bit more on the rails than we're used to with some expansion content. Okay.
Yeah, they've kind of moved away from, we'll start here and then go in any order or whatever, try to split people up, which they did in Legion and BFA, I think, to pretty good effect, but they kind of moved away from it since then. They have a lot of load balancing tools these days, so hopefully we don't get stuck in any kind of weird, annoying bottlenecks, but, we'll see. It's kind of inevitable sometimes when an expansion's brand new, but... Yeah. There's the Dragonflight boat, for example. Like, oh no, we based the entire intro to this expansion around players getting on a boat. Like, you knew that was doomed.
Well, it happened with Burning Crusade too. Everyone had to get on a boat or the portal. You had to go through the portal. Remember waiting at the portal for everyone to try and go through? Oh my god.
Yep. Yeah, like there's always something like that. One thing about the Zones blog, if you are not particularly spoiler averse and you haven't really spent any time in alpha, beta, and hung out in these zones, these previews are super robust, and there's a lot of video of the zones and stuff like that, and different descriptions of what to do there. So I think that's really cool and worth checking out if you want to get a little taste of it without hopping into beta, and you don't care about being spoiled. The post is extremely comprehensive. We're just it's not stuff to really discuss on this show. We're not gonna describe us watching the zone videos for you, but if you want to see that kind of stuff, I highly recommend checking this post out because it's huge. I mean, it's a very, very comprehensive post for these zones.
Yeah. We then got a blog post in here about hero talents, explaining what hero talents are. It's a whole new talent system that kicks in on top of your current talent system at level 71, where you can choose the first of your specializations for which hero talent specialization you want to go into. Each different specialization has 2 different hero talent trees they can choose between to participate in. And there's 11 nodes total in the hero talents that you can actually work your way through, and you will get those skill points as you level up to 80. The talent trees start off with a keystone talent that introduces the core mechanic and concept of that tree. This could be a new ability, an enhancement to an existing ability or cooldown, or a new buff that you can trigger. The bottom talent of the tree is the capstone. That talent is sort of the builds on the core values of the tree and adds new power to the keystone ability that you have going on. Each tree will offer or modify some class utility and include defensive bonuses that are useful to all specializations. We're aiming for all trees to be equal in the amount of utility and defensiveness they provide. Trees for characters that can take on a tanking role may have some additional defensive bonuses that will be less valuable to healers or damage dealers, such as bonuses to tank talents or cooldowns. 3 or 4 nodes in each tree will be choice nodes where you can choose between 2 options. Yeah, overall, I've been pretty happy with the hero talent system. I will say it does feel very passive in a lot of ways. There are some ones out there that basically just enhance your abilities that you have inside of your tree, and in those sorts of ways are very cool. There's a whole tree ent build that you can do for druids that's very neat to sort of put out there and have these tree ents have a lot more variety in what they can actually do and how durable they are and how much damage they deal and how much healing they can do and all those sorts of things. But you don't feel it as much as like the classic example to me of, hey, this was a cool new thing is Convoke. Like, it's a button you press, your character does some crazy things, and then all of a sudden it's done, right? Everyone likes having that big, oh my God button. They love that. These don't necessarily all have that. They have different ways of enhancing talents, and in some cases change the visual effects for talents, which I think is very cool. So I think people have a lot of fun exploring these and how they affect their class and what they want to do. And just keep in mind, it's very easy to change the stuff around. Very, very easy. They've kept the whole fluid system that they had throughout, well, I guess it started in Shadowlands and then had much more throughout Dragonflight, where you're able to just, anytime you're inside a rested area, just change your talents around however you want to change them around. Even on the fly, you can do that inside some dungeon situations if you need to. So it's going to be a good experience as far as hero talents go, because if something's not feeling right or working as well, you can change it, and you just have to take a moment to pause and do it. There's nothing that you don't need to like have a particular item on you or go to a particular place or talk to a particular person or spend a certain currency. There's no limitations like that. So I think they're in a good place for how they're actually going about introducing these sorts of things, because players can play with them much easier than they could inside older content, where they might have been like, guess what? You get 5 talent changes a week. It's a currency you have to earn by doing Torghast or something, right? Like, it's, you know,
right.
Oh my God.
Why would they ever implement a system like that? They would, that would never happen. They know better. Hero talents are not that. They're really, I think they're more analogous to artifact weapon traits. I don't want to invoke that in some kind of like, I mean, Legion's my favorite expansion and era of the game ever, and I think artifact weapons were a great system.
Yeah.
Hero talents sort of take the idea of that and make them more intrinsic to your character, because you will get all of them just by leveling to max level. You don't need to, figure out the optimal unlock path or whatever. The level up content is not tuned to be super difficult, so you can just take whatever seems cool as you hit a level, and then when you get to 80, you'll have access to all of it. You can swap it at any time. There's no artifact power or whatever you need to collect to like spec out this other thing. It's just there, and it's intrinsic to your character for the duration of the expansion. Like in my case, my 2 choices are Mountain Thane and Colossus, and Mountain Thane does not add a button. Thank goodness. Prot Warrior has a lot of buttons, and I don't really want too many new buttons. And so Mountain Thane kind of just enhances. It's really a lot around basically Thunderclap and having like this effect that ignites Thunderclap in a way, like it procs like a better version of Thunderclap, and just kind of playing around with that whole idea, which is really cool thematically and visually, obviously, and plus kind of streamlined. It seems like it'll be really fun for dungeons and multi-target situations. Colossus, on the other hand, adds a new button, and it adds a button that is, from the way I'm looking at it, not super dissimilar from the extra ability that we got from our Legion artifact, actually, because it kind of requires a little bit of forethought. You need to channel it, so as a tank that can be kind of challenging, and you want to make sure that you're in a good position to do that and that it's a good time to do it. But as you build that tree out and level up, like there's a lot of elements that change what happens when you hit that button and power it up and continue to go up the, sort of the power scale there. So it sort of becomes this mini game that you're playing around your spec and your priority system in a way that we've seen, maybe with an artifact active ability, but I think more of like some 4-set bonuses and stuff that we've seen in the past, where it's like, okay, at the 2-set you unlock this ability, this effect happens, and then at a 4-set all of these other things sort of build off of that. And so now every time you spend X amount of your resource, you need to pay attention, because now you're hitting the place where it's the right time to push this new button or whatever, or to push this old button that you had that is now better than it used to be because of your set bonuses. That's how I'm looking at Colossus, basically. Like, okay, I'm going to hotkey this, and then there's like a certain threshold of the buff stacking up that now it's time to hit it, and I want to make sure I get as many of them as I can so I can keep the buff rolling and, just manage it on that level. So, I'm looking at it like probably that will be more useful for like single target fights and raid bosses and stuff. And, but that's not to say that Colossus has no AoE utility. It's not to say that Mountain Thane has no single target utility. There are choices you can make, and you can make them to your heart's content, basically. I mean, yeah, in a Keystone, like obviously you got to pick one and then you roll with that build through the whole dungeon, but swap it from raid boss to raid boss. If you're doing Mythic Zeros, you could swap your talents around at will. So I think the system is cool. It's really smart. It reminds me of, I mean, we've seen a lot of stuff that's like hero talents in the last few years since Legion, right? Like artifact traits into Azerite armor, into covenants, and then they kind of got rid of all that stuff and went with the talent system rework in Dragonflight and kept it very streamlined. This is like, what if you had all that cool and really thematic stuff that was baked into some of those, releases, but it was tied directly to your character and your character's identity. And also we hear you loud and clear players about the need for flexibility. So
right.
I think it's a cool system. I think people are going to have a lot of fun with it because it just adds so much customization to your character and to like solve a content puzzle for your character. It just gives you a lot of new tools. And this is not 11 new buttons, right? I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Like some specs might have like a new button or two, but for the most part, you're between like 0 and 2 new buttons, I think. And that's good because, we already have too many buttons generally, I think. And so if this system came in and it was like, hey, you got to work in like 3 or 4 new hotkeys, that wouldn't feel exciting to me. That would feel like work I had to do and that I would have to learn how to play around it. Whereas the way this is coming in feels like it's complementing stuff I'm already doing and is familiar when it comes to adding new, like the elements are new, but I sort of already know how I'm going to approach incorporate them into my play style.
Yeah, I'm glad that they went about a route of, as much as I talk about having that big, powerful button that people always love having, I'm glad they went about a route where they just chose to enhance that button and maybe change its visual effects in some way to make it more special or unique to what it's doing, as opposed to adding more buttons. Because I'm still of the general opinion that they should be pruning in this situation. I still think World of Warcraft in general, for the majority of classes, has just too many activatable things for them to actually be pressing. I don't think there should be any class in World of Warcraft that has more than 12 buttons. I just don't think they should, just in general. And when you add potions onto that, and you add buffs onto that, and you add portals onto that, and you add mounts onto that, and you add, right, you then are like, okay, well, it's very easy to get up towards 24 to 36 buttons once you've added all of the things that you actually want on a hotbar. And especially when you get macros involved and you get, different situational things. Well, maybe I use this macro for raid, or this ability for PvP, or this for, right? It really builds up quickly. So I do feel like they could be trimming in a lot of these situations so that there are just very few buttons to press, but lots of situations you can use them in. And so I feel like this is a good direction to go with talents, where they're going, this is, for the majority of classes that I've seen, something that, as you said, adds maybe one button, but in some cases adds no buttons and just enhances all of the things that you're choosing to do. And in order to make it feel like it's still something new, we'll change the visual effect and make it a much cooler visual effect, or more exaggerated visual effect of what's happening based off of how you're affecting that ability. I still want there to be things of like, you can summon in fire treants as opposed to normal treants. Like, give me some adjustable things that happen with that really like very much change what that thing does. I think would be very cool if they allowed people to do things like that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with hero talents down the line. I know there's gonna be a lot of balancing and tuning that happens the next 3 months to all this stuff. So I'm curious to see where it goes. There might be some reworks that take place too, but I'm excited in the direction, and I think they're on the right track. And they're speaking. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Yep.
Oh, just one other thing I want to point out about this, or really hammer this, I guess, is that, they're selling this as an evergreen feature, right? Like, this is not a War Within feature. Hero talents are, at least at this point in time, as we're speaking on August 19th of 2024, they're telling us that they intend for these to be in the game for the foreseeable future. So, that kind of makes you think, okay, will we see entirely new trees come in maybe in Midnight or something, right? Like some other choice, like maybe one new choice per spec or whatever, which could add a lot of different visuals and kind of fantasy into the situation. Maybe have a chance to express different gameplay styles.
Or do they branch deeper? They could also branch deeper into those specs. Right. They could add a whole other 5 buttons to the or five talent points or whatever it is to the actual system, and just expand the trees farther. So you have your main tree for your class. You have your spec tree that you have your hero talent tree, and your hero talent tree is now like this ever-growing, broadening thing that you can actually adapt with is the other option. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think it's also reasonable to assume, like, if they're here to stay, then you're going to see a lot of work on them to make them feel good, make them powerful, to balance them. And yeah, probably see reworks and stuff as the expansion comes along. Like, this is their, I mean, if you put Evergreen in the blog, then our brains go to a particular place, right?
Yeah.
And we should theoretically have these talents, like, at least through the end of World Soul, I would think. I mean, who knows what's going to happen after the end of Last Titan? So we might be in a totally different universe by then. But you know, for probably the next good few years here, like, this is going to be part of your character and part of your gameplay experience, and a thing that you can play around and experiment with at pretty low cost and kind of adapt your play style. So, I mean, when they showed this at BlizzCon, one of the first things they showed was, you know, Prot Warrior Mountain Thane firing off like a splitting storm bolt that hit 3 different targets and stunned them, and I was like, okay, I'm sold. Like, this is, I've been wanting that sort of, you know, Mountain King, it was called in Warcraft 3, kind of flavor more expressed in the warrior class for many years. And so, you know, they kind of hit me, you know, square right away as soon as they showed off the feature back then. And I just think there's a lot of potential here. Players want to have customization. They want to have choices. They want to have stuff that makes them feel powerful and cool as they, you know, move around the game world and participate in combat or whatever. To me, you know, we'll see how this feels, and maybe 2 years from now we're standing here and I'm singing a much different tune. But I think this is really smart. I think they've learned a lot of lessons of some different systems and different ways to, you know, express power to player characters in the last few years, and come up with a much more flexible and appealing version of it than something that's tied to an item that I'm going to lose at the end of an expansion or something like that.
Yeah. All right. They also did a couple Wowcast episodes this week. The first was a dive into War Within's Delves, Dungeons, PvP, and Raids with UX designer Laura Sardenha, along with associate game director Morgan Day and lead gameplay engineer John Mark Hemphill. And we also had, of course, Bethany jumping in there, Bethany Stout, community manager, hopping in to be the host of both of these that took place. Bethany's great. Congratulations. She recently got engaged, I believe. So congratulations. The overall, this blog where there's a spotlight on the features and activities coming up within War Within. So if it's something you want to check out and learn more about warbands, delves, Mythic Plus dungeons, and affixes, and PvP, and rated battlegrounds, and the upcoming Nuremberg Palace raid, check that out. We're going to have links in the show notes, obviously, so you can hop in and listen to these Wowcast blogs that take place. The second one was about War Within story and world building. This had associate game director Maria Hamilton, along with associate game director Morgan Day, and cinematic narrative director Taryn Gregory, along with Bethany, of course, again, community manager extraordinary, Bethany Stout, for chatting about the World Soul Saga, War Within storyline, what you can expect to encounter, the journeys players will expect to take, and how the epic story is unfurling. So be sure that you actually check this out as well. This will be inside the show notes as well. It's always great when we get these sorts of dev interviews. I like it when community gets to do these, but I also appreciate what the WoW team does and puts together. And of course, appreciate Bethany for her work putting in hosting these sorts of things, because it's not easy to do on a regular basis, as I know very well. So I encourage them to continue getting more communication out to us. And if this is the way that they're choosing to do it, at least we're getting something. I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is, these things are kind of laser focused and they're pretty short, like 20-ish minutes, which is a pretty quick watch. Now, the one with Maria and Morgan and Taryn, just came out, like 20 minutes before we were going live. So I haven't had a chance to watch it. I'll watch it later today, but I haven't seen it yet. I'm sure it's interesting because they're doing a lot of stuff with narrative that I think it's more front and center than it's been maybe in recent expansions. just the way that they're kind of building up this whole story and kind of selling Xalatath as this huge villain, and sort of all the tendrils that kind of weave their way into the story because of her. I mean, to me, it feels much more deliberate than it's felt in the last couple expansions, honestly. So I'm excited to check that one out, but I haven't been able to, as we're speaking right now. The one about an end game for everyone, as they kind of called it, with Laura and Morgan and John Mark. There wasn't like a lot of blockbuster stuff in there that like I didn't know, but I wouldn't really expect them to announce or release something I didn't know in a format like this. Like I'm not really the target audience for that, right?
It's not just that. I would say what I would always expect from these chunks of content from the WoWcast is there an accompaniment to the blogs that we get, in the sense of, hey, if you're someone who doesn't learn as well or read as well or like to ingest written content, here's video content for you to be able to listen to and watch that's going to help you get what you would get out of reading this blog inside a video format in a few minutes, right? That's really what I feel like a lot of this is. Yeah. And often it's also about, hey, I want to actually be able to hear from the devs themselves. And as much as the devs are involved in writing those blogs, it feels way more personable when Morgan Day is telling you, this is what I've experienced and this is what we're looking forward to and this is the answer to that question, right? There's something much more tangible about that than a blog that is well crafted by a team of people and goes through a lot of checks and a lot of people have input on, but isn't something that's coming right from the mouth of a dev. And there is something about that. So that's where I feel these both fit in as far as accompaniments to the blogs to help people who want to hear them that way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the biggest thing is like Morgan being able to really talk philosophically about, what they want to provide to the player or what they want the player to experience. That's the thing that really jumps out at me about the one about delves and other endgame. Like, again, we're familiar with these features. We've played them in public testing and we've talked about them on the show a lot. I'm sure a lot of people listening have as well. But, it is part of the WoW team's job to say like, hey, here's a cool thing in the game to check out, and this is like why we did it the way that we did it. I do think that video at about 20 minutes is highly worth a watch if you haven't watched the whole thing. There's a couple little tidbits here and there, and there's one thing in the very beginning when they're showing off warbands, they show a Drakthir holding two-handed axes. Yeah. So that was kind of a cheeky little tease maybe for Drakthir getting to be different classes maybe sooner than later. There wasn't a lot of Easter eggs that were apparent to me other than that in the thing. I wouldn't like say comb through it for some, sneaky information or whatever, but if you want to hear kind of the thought process of how delves and the dungeon system rework fit into what the developers are thinking about, like how you're approaching the game and how you're playing it, it's definitely worth a watch. And if you've been out for a while, like Mythic Plus, the whole structure of Mythic Dungeons is much different as of Dragonflight Season 4 than maybe what has been familiar to you from more recent history. And, delves are a whole new concept that are going to try to find their own place in sort of the overall diet of each WoW player. So yeah, definitely worth a watch. And unfortunately, just the one about story and world building is just too hot off the press. Man, I didn't have 20 minutes to watch it before we got started. So definitely interested in checking that out. I mean, Morgan and Taryn are both multi-time TSE guests, and Morgan may be one of our most frequent guests ever. So they're very engaging speakers, and always cool to hear their approach to building the game. Like, it's just infectious, and this is such an exciting time to be a WoW player. Like the week leading up to an expansion release, it just doesn't really get any better. So I'm definitely keen on checking that out later today.
All right, the next chunk of news we want to chat about is the Light and Shadow. What I mentioned earlier in the show, this is the Illyrio Windrunner journey through light and shadow in the latest video. This is rad. This is a fully animated, essentially as close to like an animation, like an actual anime or Japanimation, whatever you want to think about it, version of World of Warcraft storytelling. It's 5 minutes and 24 seconds long. It is very well done, and it tells a lot of story. So this is the type of thing that we want a lot more of, I would say, inside of the Warcraft community based off reaction. So I would certainly encourage people to check it out. We'll do another link in the show notes, but I'm not going to spoil story stuff because the entire thing is a story being told. So that seems counterintuitive, but I will say it's very pretty and it's worth watching. So check it out.
I mean, this is, some of us in the audience, we've been dreaming about, fully animated, like official WoW stuff forever. Probably even really before WoW, if you think about it. Like, even going back to the RTS games, like, wouldn't it be cool if there was like a Warcraft cartoon, And the style here kind of reminds me of like, I don't know, like that Avengers cartoon that Marvel did a few years ago. As the movies were starting to kind of blow up. It's that kind of like somewhat blocky style. It's not super detailed, but it's really dynamic. And yeah, the story is basically like it's Illyria kind of telling her own story from where Illyria is right now, and kind of going back to Second War, like Warcraft 2 stuff. And then kind of where we were reintroduced to her and Turalyon in Legion, and sort of, how she got from point A to point B to where she is now. There's some really great stuff in here. There's a shot of Arator standing in the Valley of Heroes, look in Judgment, in full Judgment set, looking up at the statue of Illyria that's the Valley of Heroes in Stormwood. It's just incredible, man. I believe there are no credits attached to this post. Again, I don't know why they won't just tell us who the responsible parties are, but I'm pretty sure that Taron Gregory directed this one, and based on a tweet from Neil Acree, who did some of the music. If Neil says Taron directed it, I'm gonna believe him. But just incredible stuff. I watched this like 3 or 4 times at least so far. I wish we could have a 22-minute episodes of this, and full seasons of it. Let's just do the whole entire saga, man. Start with It Works in Humans and go all the way through. I'd watch all of it. It's just incredible stuff that we've waited so long for. And one thing that I wanted to point out that maybe I don't know. This might be me reading between the lines too much, seeing something that I want to see, but if you look at the blog post on worldofwarcraft.com, when you look at this, it says watch The War Within, Light and Shadow, and then underneath that, where the date line is, it says animated short. It's like in a category. The Threads of Fate that we got a couple weeks ago, the kind of 2.5D animatic thing, that did not have a category in that date line. So I'm wondering if like maybe there are going to be more of these, or maybe there's going to be additional parts to Illyria's story or something. And maybe this is just foolish hope as somebody who's wanted like full animated Warcraft stuff for so long to finally get it. But yeah, I mean, it was just incredible. Like they dropped a little like 5-second teaser for it the day before it came out, and I was like, "What is this? Like, this is obviously not our typical like Harbingers, Warbringers style animatic. Like this is animated. Everything is moving in this frame, right?" And luckily they didn't keep us in the dark for too long. It came out the next day, but yeah, incredible, man. I'm so happy with it. I wish we could get more of this stuff. And Illyria, I think, is one of the cooler characters in the whole saga. She's my favorite Windrunner. She's a really interesting character, and she's at this inflection point in the story now. I mean, we're kind of primed for her to be a main character in War Within, and possibly beyond. And she's got a lot of history that spreads through all these different sort of channels inside of Warcraft. She's Sylvanas' older sister. She's also like Turalyon's kind of estranged wife. They have all this tension around the light versus the void. Arator is a character that might be, we're seeing this kind of generational shift in Warcraft, right? As some of the more familiar characters age, and we're seeing the younger generation kind of become more prominent. Arator might be a character that sort of inherits that spotlight from his parents. All that stuff is sort of a factor here. So I'm just super into it. I think it was great, and man, just give me more of these, please.
If you're looking to support your own favorite streamer, Twitch is of course doing drops. This is one of those situations that always raises a little bit of tension around the community. It is part of the hype cycle. It is part of the industry. Whenever a new big thing's coming out, we get to see how Twitch is going to be involved in that new thing. Well, in this case, you can earn the Watcher of the Huntress pet by supporting your favorite World of Warcraft creators on Twitch, which involves gifting subs, or you can get the Twitch drop, which is the Ghastly Charger, the TCG mount, the trading card game mount from World of Warcraft, by watching channels when War Within goes live. This promotion is going to run from the 26th until the 19th. So 26th of August at launch time. At lunchtime at 6 p.m. until September 19th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. You'll be able to earn your Ghastly Charger. The gifting sub thing is actually, it goes until the 26th. It goes a little bit longer. It's a full month. I'm assuming that's a business thing involving with Twitch, where you have from the 26th until the 26th, and basically you support your streamer by gifting some subs, and you'll be able to get rewarded with a pet. And yeah, it's raised some tension around the community because the Ghastly Charger mount is one currently that if you are trying to sell, you can actually sell for, close to $1,000, whatever it is, based off of the market pricing that's out there for people who are selling these things. This is one of those things that's more than 10 years old. And people, in my opinion, this is entirely my opinion on the situation. People who have gotten this, who wanted to actually value it, have applied the code to their account and been using it and been enjoying it and have had it for 10 years. I think that's fine that it spreads out to other people. During, I think it was Warlords of Draenor and Mists of Pandaria, a lot of this stuff got duped. Like a lot of it got duped. There were people generating mounts in a lot of different weird ways. If ever someone's trying to sell you one of these trading card mounts that's like on the auction house or from their inventory as in a trade, that is most likely a duped mount that you're receiving. It's not actually one from the trading card game. If it's from the trading card game, they're giving you the actual code off of the card that you actually go to a vendor and use and then gets applied to your account, and that's how you get the mount. So the majority of these are inside dupe situations at this point. And I straight up, I don't care if you hurt dupers' feelings when it comes to putting something out as a Twitch drop to people who want to just watch and support a streamer to get a mount that's 10 years old. I think that's fine, personally. I don't think there's a problem there. If you're someone who hung on to this card and never scratched the code for over 10 years in some sort of strange, I want to have this as a retirement fund situation, I feel for you, but I feel like you waited really long to try and get a payoff off of this and could have sold that card 6 years ago for the same amount of money as you're selling it for today. So just keep that in mind. And I think it's I think this is a great benefit for folks who are trying to get the Ghastly Charger mount. Glad to see it happening. And I'm looking forward to everyone getting in there and watching and doing that. You don't necessarily have to gift a sub unless you want to get that Watcher of the Huntress pet, in which case, go for it. That's a cool thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, whenever they bring back one of these old TCG mounts, some people get up in arms because, hey, I spent premium money for that on eBay. I don't really think that, to me, that's not a compelling argument. I'm not going to spend $1,000 on a TCG card, but I will watch 2 hours of Twitch. I think part of the problem is Blizzard probably shouldn't have let these things kind of pass into nothingness for so long, right? Like there should have been some other option to acquire these, especially after the physical TCG game went out of print, and all that's like, once they dropped that consumer product, all that stuff should have been rolled into the main game, more quickly in some way. So some way to utilize it.
It would have never achieved the value it would have achieved had that happened. It never would have.
Right. Yeah. There wouldn't have been such an explosive secondary market for it. I mean, what you're talking about with the duping situation, really it makes it questionable what the value of those even is, but the fact remains is if you go, I haven't looked at it recently. I guess if you look up Ghastly Charger TCG cards on eBay now, they're probably plummeting because people will be happy to part with them for whatever they could still get before this happens. It's just, it's unfortunate. Blizzard can't I don't think Blizzard can market their game around secondary markets, I think these campaigns have been good. I mean, as somebody who is a very casual and small-time streamer, these programs have helped me out immensely with getting people to come hang out in the channel and support the channel. The gifted sub thing is great because, people are excited to receive the sub, and then you get something cool for it. Yeah. I'll go hang out in a streamer's channel and gift a couple subs that I wouldn't have otherwise, right? And then that's good for everybody. It's kind of a nice program. It was great for me when they did a Dragonflight launch, and it was fun to hop in and give some subs to somebody else as well. it's just a cool moment. It's a nice thing to do for the community. And I don't have this. I never got a Ghastly Charger. So I think it's cool. I do think like part of the problem is how long these things languished and there was no way to ever get them and they had never done anything like this, right? But at this point, you got to pretty much understand that if you have something that was a super limited distro, like a trading card game promo or something, they are going to redistribute that, right?
Yeah.
Like they're going to get to it at some point for some promotion.
Yeah.
So if you have a card that you feel like you want to sell, you better sell it, because the next time they do this, it might be the thing that you're banking on getting maybe, a premium for. So it's not going to stop. They're not going to hear from people who go, oh, I just bought that card from a secondary market seller for $1,000. Now you're giving it away for free. Stop doing this. We're not going to go, oh, okay, yeah, actually we're going to stop doing that.
Or
like,
here's your $1,000 or whatever it is. Yeah, no, that's
right.
Not, yeah,
it's just not how the business works. Like what they're interested in doing is promoting the game and working with a partner like Twitch to get people excited about playing the game and to have some benefits for the people watching it and the people broadcasting it all in the process. So, man, if you bought a Ghastly Charger TCG card a couple weeks ago for $1,000, like that sucks. But there's no recourse in that case.
Yeah.
Like it's not Blizzard's fault that happened.
Yeah.
I mean, like we say, Blizzard could have redistributed these earlier. But yeah, if you have these unscratched TCG cards, man, if they haven't come for your item yet, like list it while you can. Just get rid of it.
Yeah. All right. Last but not least, we have the World of Warcraft Variety Show, which is kicking off on August 31st. This is going to include a leveling race, a scavenger hunt, a battleground blitz, a game show, and finally a fast draw duel. And so this is going to be closing on its signups. The signups started last Friday, and its signups are running until this coming Friday. So the 23rd is when signups close. So if you want to be involved in the Variety Show, be sure you sign up while you can. There's going to be invitations then sent out on the 26th. So on the Monday, they're going to send out invitations for the Variety Show, which takes place on the 31st. So you'll then have that week to prepare yourself for the Variety Show. And just to go through what some of these things are, I mean, a leveling race is a leveling race. We know what that is. A scavenger hunt is going to be basically heading out and gathering clues. They're going to be in the 4 expansive zones of Khazalgar, which means you'll probably need a max level character. And you'll be basically solving mysteries around Isle of Dorn, Ringing Deeps, Hallowfall, and Ashkahet. And each clue will sort of guide you farther along in this sort of like tricky journey to try and find all the things for the scavenger hunt. The Battleground Blitz is exactly what it sounds like. You have celebrity and community contestants facing off inside several Battleground maps. The game show is where essentially they pay homage to World of Warcraft universe and its community through a game show built around characters, items, abilities, experiences, and more. I'm assuming this is like a quiz show. Like this is like World of Warcraft Jeopardy is what this is probably going to end up being. So that, I think it could be really fun depending on which personalities they get to be on it. I will say there's some personalities I am just not interested in watching ever, but you know what? There's some that I'm like, yes, I would absolutely be there 100%. Let's see what's going on. All right, Fast Draw Duel. This is where they bring back fan favorite draw and guess side activities where they revamp World of Warcraft theme to fit within War Within. So this is actually someone drawing quickly and people guessing what they're drawing, which I think is pretty cool. So yeah, this is overall going to be a really fun event. I'm looking forward to it kicking off. I always like when they do this stuff because it's great when they get the community really involved. So if you're interested, sign up, see what you can do.
Yeah, I think this has been a great innovation. This kind of came in, in the Dragonflight era, and it's really fun. I mean, I think they're fun events. My only thing with this is the timing is rough, man. This is like expansion launch window.
Well, it's
make sure you check for your email invitation on the day the expansion comes. I mean, like obviously they want to hit the expansion marketing hard, but it's like, is this too much in that window? I don't know. Like, am I going to stop to watch this that day, or am I going to be busy doing expansion stuff? I don't know, but
I think it's a good window because it's before we hit Mythic Plus and Season 1 and everything else kicking off, and it's a window of time where people will most likely be able to be playing the game while they have this open on another monitor or on TV or something in the room. and be watching it, and it can be a really good background thing that they're doing, right? I rarely watch stuff like this where it's like, this is what I'm watching. I have blocked out all other distractions. This is typically something where I'm watching where I'm going, yeah, this is my other thing that I'm doing while I'm playing World of Warcraft, because it's cool to check out and see what's happening, right? So that's
I mean,
what fits for me.
it's a great event for sure. Like I think they've done really cool stuff with it in the past, and it sounds like they got some good stuff lined up for this. Will I be watching it live? I don't know, maybe not, but I might go back and check out some highlights or whatever on the VOD. But you have some time to sign up if you want to try to get picked to participate. That seems like it'd be pretty fun. This is. It's been a while since they did one of these, so I don't know. They should probably do these like quarterly or something, especially with the amount of updates we get. They could have done one of these for Remix or something, like obviously it's a lot to organize and they got to have a budget for it. But if you have, content to kind of draw people's attention to, then I think you could do this, more often than, a couple times in expansion.
I am down for anything that involves community more in promoting the game. I really feel like it's an unleveraged thing that they like, and why I say unleveraged is because it used to be so leveraged. Like World of Warcraft used to be heavily leveraged on community and stuff that happens around the community. And I do feel like, as much as there are absolutely advocates and champions within Blizzard who are pushing for more involvement with community, I feel like it has definitely slowed down dramatically over the last 6 years. We've seen a steady decline of the amount of involvement they are pulling in community members to actually not just promote their product, but actually be involved in that promotion of the product. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
This is the perfect way to do it, right? Because it's like relatively low stakes.
Yeah.
Anybody can really hop in and do this. You don't need to really super closely vet like the community people that are going to participate in it, because it's not like, I don't know, like a dungeon or a raid race on a stage at BlizzCon, right? You don't want to have people up there who aren't going to be able to play well enough to the point where it doesn't become interesting. This is really outside of the box for what people are doing with the game, so it opens it up to way more, people that could participate and make it an interesting show.
Yeah, exactly. All right, folks, with that, I'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons. They contribute a ton to our show and help us to improve on the content we create. This week, I'm giving a shout out to Alianas, Arajian, James, Kapawi, Max, Pinky, Shorel, and Rager. Thank you so much for all that you do to support the show, as well as all of our patrons, past and present. Thank you so much for hopping in and supporting the show. If you are someone who wants to hop in and support us too, you can go to patreon.com/thestartingzone, and you can hop in there and support us on whatever tier you're looking to do. We have no new patrons this week. We want to thank everyone for your support. And we have a PSA. There is a public service announcement that we would like to make to all of our patrons right now. So hopefully you have not stopped listening because you heard me promote Patreon stuff. If you are a patron right now, nothing will change for you. However, if you're someone who's looking to become a patron of anything at all, please do not use the Apple interface to do so. The Apple app is going to start charging people who use the app to sign up for Patreons a 30% premium on their payment so that Apple can take their cut of whatever's happening with the charging taking place. So you want to be sure, if you want to sign up for our Patreon, you're going to patreon.com/thestartingzone on your computer or on your browser and signing up through the browser or through an app on a different device. Because if you're using the App Store through Apple, that app will basically be like, oh, you wanted to pay $1 for this? That's great. Here's $1.30. That's what the charge is, because they want their 30 cents on the dollar that they can get for what they're doing. So just keep that in mind. Apple products, it doesn't take over yet. It's going to be changing the next couple of months. So there's a little bit of time ahead of that. If you are someone who is already a patron of the show, you don't need to change anything. We've been told by Patreon, you're grandfathered in under the old pricing and everything still works the same. But if you're like, hey, I want to upgrade my tier, that might be a situation where you have to worry a bit more about it, and just wait till you have a PC and you can actually go and log into your account and change it there than trying to do it on the app. I know I have definitely subscribed to Patreons on the app before, and it's a nice simple way to do it because you can have it all happen through Apple Pay, which is really nice and useful. But yes, if they're going to start charging 30% upcharge just for using their app, I think that's ridiculous. And I don't want you all taking the brunt of that. So yeah, definitely be sure if you're going to sign up, go to the website on your computer, sign up that way.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, this is a huge kind of bombshell last week for Patreon creators and customers, of which, we are both. And yeah, I mean, like you said, this is not just a Starting Zone thing. This is everybody. So if you have any creators doing anything at all on Patreon that you want to support, please don't use the iOS app.
Yeah.
Just go to a web browser and do it. You don't need to cut Apple in on that. They're probably not really involved in you getting whatever it is that you're paying for. So just keep that in mind. And but yes, I mean, we are now 7 years into the Patreon campaign for the show, I think, as of this week, something like that. We're pretty close to this week. So it's been a really long time that we've been up there and that people have been supporting us, and we really appreciate it. We couldn't keep the show on track without you. We couldn't keep the bills paid and keep stuff online for you to listen to the archives and all that without you. And I mean, there have been times where it was pretty hard to keep the show on the rails and keep it in production and keep the schedule consistent. And the patrons have helped out immensely with that, past and present. So thank you for supporting us, and everybody have fun in War Within.
Yeah.
It's almost time.
It's almost time. And if you enjoyed this podcast, consider leaving us those 5-star reviews. They really help us out. You can review us on Spotify. You can review us on iTunes, whatever it is you're looking to do. But we'll read them here. I don't think the ones on Spotify actually let you leave a written, typed up review like the ones on iTunes do. But there is an option for starring it, which is neat. And I'm glad they added that. This one comes in from Adegian, entitled Best WoW Podcast Out There. Says, TSZ is an absolute gem for any WoW enthusiast. These hosts are incredibly knowledgeable and bring infectious enthusiasm to every episode. Their deep dives into lore, strategies, and game updates are both informative and entertaining. They're funny without overdoing it, and provide the right amount of information and side talk. Whether you're a veteran player or a new to Azeroth, this podcast is a fantastic companion to your WoW journey. Highly recommend. Adegian on Zul'jin, member of Rain Hellfire. It's a great, that's actually a great way to spell your guild name, because it's rain as in I'm reigning over something, like I'm the ruler of Hellfire.
Like a sovereign,
right. But it has the double entendre of being also raining down Hellfire, which I like. So thank you very much, Adegian, for leaving us the 5-star review. We appreciate it. Helps us boost up those charts. We were hitting top 10 earlier this month, so it's been pretty wonderful to see everyone hopping in and supporting the show. So thank you. Keep the support coming.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks for the review. It's really great to hear from you, and I'm glad that you enjoy the show. It really means a lot. We work hard to kind of present a show that focuses on a lot of different angles of the game and gives you, an entry point into it, or something to check out, or something to go play. So it's always nice to hear. And yeah, I mean, we've gotten so many reviews in like this summer. We're catching up from like early July at this point. We don't want to put too many of them in each episode, but so we're a little backlogged because everybody's been so generous with their time and leaving us so many reviews. And I mean, you can tell how our community is growing because we get new people popping in Discord like all the time. Just say, hey, I just found the show, or I've been listening for a while, but I finally decided to hop in and chat, or I'm back to the game for the first time since Cataclysm, or I'm back to the game for the first time in a couple of years or whatever. And it's such a fun time of the life cycle of the game, when that stuff starts happening. And so basically what I'm saying is thank you to everybody who's taken time to write a review for us on the Apple Podcast store. And we are still a little backed up, but we're working through and keep them coming.
Yeah, definitely keep them coming. I love having at least one review for every episode. And so when we can get them in like this, it's wonderful. So please keep them coming. We will get to all the reviews. It really does genuinely support the show in a very positive way. Those reviews are very important to all the metadata junk that's out there around podcasting. So we appreciate it very much. So thank you so much for helping us out. All right, that's going to wrap up episode 645 of The Starting Zone. If you want to check out show notes for this episode or leave us a comment on the show, you can head on over to thestartingzone.com, the official website for the Starting Zone podcast. If you want to contact the show and leave us your feedback, you can email us at thestartingzone@gmail.com, or reach out to us on Twitter at thestartingzone, or you can join our Discord server, thestartingzone.com/Discord. We'll give you the button you click to join into our Discord server. If you want to get your hands on some TSC gear, you can get yourself some hats or shirts or mugs, things like that. So not hats, shirts or mugs or stickers. There's no hats. I apologize. I really want there to be toques. That's what I actually really want to be on there.
Oh, that'd be cool.
It
Yeah,
would.
I'd get one of those.
Yeah, at TeePublic, that's teepublic.com/stores/the starting zone. And Jason, where can folks find you on the internet?
Best place to find me is always over on Twitter. You can find me over there at Shieldwald. You can also find me on Blue Sky. The username is just Jay Lucas over there. You can also find me on twitch.tv/Shieldwald and youtube.com/Shieldwald. My plan currently is to stream quite a bit of early access and expansion launch and all that. Just kind of hanging out, leveling, maybe doing multiple tunes, doing dungeons, doing delves, and just, hanging out on stream, chatting it up, whatever. So check that out. The stream has been really wildly inconsistent this year, but I do want to get back into it, and I'm going to be playing quite a bit of War Within, so check out the video channels as well.
If you're trying to find me, you can find me on Twitter at Spencer_Downey, or over on Twitch at twitch.tv/SpencerHD, or on YouTube at youtube.com/@SpencerHD. And with that, for Jason and myself, we want to say thanks for listening, and jobs done.